Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Daily Word. It is Tuesday, a rather rainy, dreary, dark morning, but we needed the rain, and that refreshes the earth, so we are thankful for that. Thanks for joining me this morning as we continue our journey through the Word and how it speaks to us. So this morning, I just chose one little small verse for us, but we'll expand on what it means for us. But just this one verse to get us started. God said to Moses, I am who I am. Now, this is a part of a bigger picture about God telling Moses who God is and how to tell those who Moses is going to go to the Israelites. And when they say, who sent you here? God said to Moses, tell them, I am who I am. Thus you shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. You know, one of the things that I have the privilege of doing in my life and have doing for a long time is announcing, introducing of players at soccer, at volleyball, and at boys and girls basketball games. And I love doing that. It's fun. I like using my announcer voice to make it happen. I like saying the names. I like trying to add some excitement to the game. One of the things I'm always careful about, specifically, is that when we play a team, especially a non-league team that I don't know, I don't always know the pronunciation of the names. The coach, players, cheerleaders. And so I'm careful about that. And so if I don't know for sure, I go and ask, how do I say this name specifically? The other week, our volleyball referee, I didn't know his name. And so I said, so how do I say your last name? And so he told me so. I wrote it down very carefully. Our names are important, and it's important to me to say them correctly over the microphone. And I take very careful care in that because, many of us are named for a reason. All of us are named for a reason, I suppose. Some of us are named after somebody. Our names have importance and meaning. And so names are critical to us. Sunday morning in worship, when I was getting towards the time for children's church and the passing of the donuts and the inviting to the party, I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to get everyone a donut. And then I thought, I know, I'll call everybody by name and invite them to the table. And so I'm looking across the congregation, making sure that I knew everyone's name. And so everyone got invited by name to come to the table. I think that's such a critical thing, and it's one of the instructions that God gave to Moses. When Moses says to God, if I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am, the great I am. And by that name, people would know who it was that sent Moses. I think it's important for us, in our lives, about our names, to remember who you are, right? Now, sometimes we're called our names and we get called our middle name when we're in trouble. Sometimes when it's official, it's James, not just Jim, and you make careful about that. It's important that we remember who we are, and it's equally important, I think, for us to remember whose we are. Remember who we are and whose we are. Now, often in our world, we have trouble because the world teaches us sometimes the wrong I ams. We're limited. We are not good enough. We are not tall enough. we're not fast enough. We're not smart enough. We don't have the right skin color. We don't live in the right neighborhood. We don't drive the right kind of car. And so we sometimes put those I ams then on ourselves. I am not. And whatever follows. The world tries to do that to us. But God reminds us in this text that the I ams, our I ams, who we are and whose we are infinite. We are, I am, you are, fearfully and wonderfully made. We are, I am, you are, made in the image of God. And I think it's important for us when we struggle the most, when we have the most difficult time, when we're unsure of ourselves, even our own identity. If we wonder if anybody even likes us, if we wonder if anybody even listens to us, when we wonder, whatever the wondering is, if we wonder if we're good enough, it's a reminder for us to shift our I ams into God's you ares and remember who and whose we are. And I think those are such critical things for us to remember as we live our lives, that in us, I think for all of us, we need a bit of good news to shape us and mold us and to remind us who we are and whose we are. And I think, sometimes, me included, we need that encouragement, right? God said, look, just say to the Israelites, I am who I am has sent me. I am who I am has sent me. And so you and I, we're made in the image of God. We are God's people. We're created in the image of God. The psalmist reminds us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. I was on the phone yesterday with the nurse for my pre-op call, and we were talking about stuff, and she said, why are your joints so bad? And I said, I don't know. The doctors say two things. One, because I'm tall, and two, because I was an athlete. And I played pretty competitively until I was about 40. And she said, did you run? And I said, yeah. She said, do you still run? I said, no, I am. And I'm not exactly sure what I said, but I followed it with something deflating. And that's what we do to ourselves, right? We get caught up in those things we can't do, and we forget the reminders of who we are and whose we are. I am a child of God. I am created in God's image. I am made in the image of God. And if we ever needed an uplift, if we ever needed something to remind us of the importance of our lives, no matter what we do, where we go, where we've been, even what today holds for us, we are, I am, you are God's people, God's children. And that's good news for us. And, tonight I'll go to volleyball and I'll say the names and I'll be careful. And if I don't know pronunciation, I'll ask for it. Because it's important, our names. And God said, tell them, I am who I am has sent you. So I hope that's good news for you as it is for me, that we just need to be reminded sometimes, in the difficulty of the world, and all of our struggles and where we think we fit, that we are God's. We should remember who we are and remember whose we are. So that's the word that is important for me today as I share it with you. So thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, there will not be a daily word tomorrow. There will not be a daily word tomorrow. I have to be at Grandview early in the morning for all my pre-op testing, blood work and EKG and x-rays and all of that fun stuff. So have to be there tomorrow for that. So there will not be a daily word tomorrow, but I will see you Thursday morning at 10 o'clock for our next daily word. So know of God's love that surrounds you. Know whose you are. And know my love for you. And I'll see you Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.